Hey everyone, Mr. Kranz here, and this is Geometry Lesson 1.5. So let's go ahead and get started. If you turn to your vocabulary, these are the vocabulary words we are going to be dealing with that deal with this lesson. First thing we have is something called vertical angles. All right, so that is two angles directly across from each other on intersecting lines. And they are always congruent, meaning they're always the same measurement. So we can go ahead and say that angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. See how they're across from each other? Now we can also say the same of angle 3 and angle 4. They're also vertical angles. And what that means is that they are equal to each other. So for example, if angle 1 happened to be, let's say, 70 degrees, angle 2 would have to be 70 degrees. Right, the next kind of angle we are going to look at are called complementary angles. These are two angles with measures that sum to 90 degrees. They do not have to be adjacent or next to each other. So if you remember, the easiest way you see complementary angles look like this. Remember, this box means a 90-degree or right angle, and the two angles have to be equal to 90. Now it says that it does not have to be adjacent, meaning I can have one angle over here, and let's call this 30 degrees, and then I can have another angle over here, and we can call that 60 degrees. Well, 30 plus 60 gives me 90. So we could say that, let's call this angle A and angle B, we could say that angle A and B are complementary. Our next type of angle is called a supplementary angle. Now, these are two angles with measures that sum to 180. And once again, they do not have to be adjacent. So instead of equaling 90 like complementary, they equal 180, and they're called supplementary. Then we have what's called a linear pair. Those are adjacent angles that are supplementary. Combined, they form a straight line. So a linear pair, like linear line, is a pair of angles that form a straight line. And straight lines are 180 degrees, so technically they're supplementary. Now, I can easily understand why we would get confused and forget that complementary is 90 and supplementary is 180. And the way I always remembered it was when we look at the alphabet, you have A, B, C, all the way S to Z. And then you have a number line, number lines. Let's say if we start at 0, you'd have, 1, 2, 3, you would keep going. Then you would have 90, and you would keep going, and you can go to 180. And eventually, right, you would go to infinity. Well, notice that C comes before S, and 90 comes before 180. So that's the way I always remembered it. Complementary angles are 90 degrees, and supplementary are 180, because C comes before S, and 90 comes before 180. All right, so in your note guide, you'll find this little cheat sheet that kind of explains the angle relationships. You have vertical angles, linear pairs, supplementary, complementary, and adjacent angles. That's there for your reference to look back at. You might want to either put like a little sticky note that hangs out of that sheet or fold the page just so you can go back and quickly reference it. All right, identifying types of angles. We're going to check all the relationships between angle 1 and 2. Now, right here, these are two angles that are opposite each other, and we call those vertical angles. So I'll tell you what, this is a vertical angle. 2. Well, if this is 90 over here, that means this is 90 over here. And two angles that equal 90 degrees, they are called complementary. These two angles in number 3, notice they're on a straight line. So two angles that are on a straight line, they're going to be called a linear pair. All right? Now, technically, there are also supplementary angles. So either one of those would technically be correct. Now, on number 4, it doesn't give us any indication of what the measurement of angle 1 or angle 2 is. All we know is that they're next to each other. And when angles are just next to each other, they are adjacent angles. Number 5. All right, well, let's see what's happening here. This might take a little bit of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that if I were to highlight this line here and this line here, do you see how that makes these two angles? Just with those lines. If I took away those other lines, it doesn't matter. Angle 1 and angle 2 still exist. If I were to eliminate this line, like this line didn't exist, and we're left with the 1 and 2, those are our vertical angles. So sometimes you have to use your imagination a little bit to see what you're looking at. Those are vertical angles. And same thing with number 6. Those are also vertical angles. And technically, they'd both be 90 degrees, so they're also supplementary. All right, so find the missing measure in each figure. Keep the angle relationship in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and you can pause the video, and then I will start going over it. All right, so you've gone over it, and you've gone through this. So you see angle 1, these are called vertical angles, and vertical angles are always going to be equal to each other. So x is going to equal 112 degrees. Angle 2, we see this right angle, so that means 90 degrees, and these are complementary angles. So we know that if one of them is 68, right, that would have to make this 22 degrees. So x equals 22 degrees, and those are complementary angles. 3 is a straight line, so that's a linear pair or supplemental angles, and they equal 180. So you just take your 180 minus 124, right? So that would give you 56. So x equals 56 degrees. All right. Number 4, notice that this angle and this angle, those two angles are what's called vertical angles. And just because we have x, y, and z doesn't mean they have to be solved in that order. I'm just going to go ahead and take the easiest one to me, which is y. So I know that if this angle is 43, this angle is 43. So I know that y is going to be 43 degrees. Now, the other thing I look at is this straight line right here. That right there is 180 degrees. And these two are linear pairs. And if you remember that linear pairs are 180. So 180 minus 43. All right, so that gives me 137 degrees. So x is 137 degrees. Now, the other thing that we have going on is that this angle here and this angle here, they're vertical to each other. And vertical angles are always congruent. So that would mean if x is 137, z is also 137 degrees. All right, number 5. I notice right here that this is a straight line, and these two are a linear pair, making them 180 degrees. So I can go ahead and take 180 minus 72 gives me 108. So I know that x is 108 degrees. Now the next thing I see is that these two are also a linear pair, and that would make them 180. So that would make y 72. Now look, you see how if this is 72, it's just the same as this, and why is that? They are vertical angles. And then finally, we'll erase some of this. We could see that this right here is a right angle, making that 90 degrees. Well, these two angles here are 180, so that makes this 90. And of that 90, we see we have 72. So z is just going to equal 90 minus 72, which is 18 degrees. So Z is going to be 18 degrees. All right, number 6, angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. If the measure of angle 2 is 105, find the measure of angle 1. So we go back to vertical angles, and we know that vertical angles are always congruent. So if angle 2 is 105, angle 1, right, the measure of angle 1 also has to be 105 degrees. Angle P and angle Q are supplementary. Now, if you remember, supplementary are 180 degrees. If the measure of angle Q is 64 degrees, find the measure of angle P. So we take our 180 minus 64, now give me 116. So the measurement of angle P equals 116. All right, so number 10, it says that PQT is 3x plus 47. So that would make this 3x plus 47. Right, and it says SQR is 6x minus 25. Well, if you notice that these two are vertical angles, so they're equal to each other. Now, it wants us to find SQR. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, if two angles are equal, their measurements are equal. We'll set them equal. Minus our 3x gives us a 3x, and we add 25. So when we add 25, that gives us a 72. So that means x equals 24. So we can plug it in. 3 times 24 plus 47. Right? So 72 plus 47. From 79 and 40 is 119. So that gives us 119. Had to think for a minute. And that should equal our other one, which was 6x, so 6 times 24 minus 25. So that's 144 minus 25, which also equals 119. Now, the question was SQR. Well, SQR was this one, but it doesn't matter. They're going to be the same. So we could say that angle SQR is 119 degrees. All right, number 12. If the measurement of angle KNM is 8x minus 5. So KNM is 8x minus 5. And the measurement of MNJ is 4x minus 19. So this angle here, 4x minus 19. Now notice that these are on a straight line. And when they're on a straight line, they're called a linear pair, and they're equal to 180. They're supplementary angles. So we can go ahead and set the sum of them equal to 180. Combine our like terms. So we get 12x equals 204, and if I'm right, that's going to be 17 when I divide by 12. So we can say that x equals 17. Let's just double check our math over here. So we got 12 times 17. All right, so we're right. So x is 17. So now we plug it in. For angle KNM, we got 8 times 17 minus 5. Well, 8 times 17 would be 80 and 56. That's 136 minus 5, so that gives us 131 degrees. And then our other one would be 4 times 17 minus 19. Well, it's going to be 68 minus 19 is 39. And when we add those together, you see that we get 180. Now, it was asking for KNM, which was this one here. So we could say angle KNM equals 131 degrees. All right, so number 13. We're going to go ahead and use this information. It says if the measurement of DEG is 5x minus 4. So DEG is 5x minus 4. So there's our 5x minus 4. I'll write my 5 a little better. All right, and then we see that the measurement of GEF is 7x minus 8. And DEH is 9y plus 5. All right, so now we have to look at these angles, and you notice we have x's and y's, and if you recall from algebra, unless you have some sort of system of equations, you're not going to solve for an x and a y in the same equation. So we're just going to deal with our x's, and if we look at our x's, you notice that the x's, the two angles with x's, are on a straight line, making them a linear pair or supplementary. So that means they are equal to 180. So we go ahead and we add them together and set them equal to 180. It's going to be 12x minus 12 equals 180. When I add 12, I get 12x equals 192. And 192 divided by 12 is 16. So x equals 16. So now all I want to do is plug this in to make sure that it's correct. Well, 5 times 16, right, that's 90. 80. And 80 minus 4 is 76. So this would be 76 degrees. 7 times 16, that's 112, and 112 minus 8 gets me 104. So they do equal 180, so that's correct. So x is equal to 16. Now, what about y? Well, we have to look at what we know. Right? Let's clear this up a little bit. We know that this is 76, and this is 104. And now since this angle is 104, this angle and this angle, they're vertical angles. So what does that mean? That means they are equal to each other. So that means 9y plus 5 equals 104. So now we can take that information of 9y plus 5 equals 104, and we can use that. So 9y equals 99, so y equals 11. If you check it out, 99 plus 5, right, is 104. So it's all good. So y equals 11. 14, angle R and angle S are complementary. So that means they're 90 degrees. The measurement of angle R is 12x minus 3, and the measurement of angle S is 7x minus 2. And if they are complementary, that means they equal 190 together. So 12x minus 3 plus 7x minus 2 equals 90. So it gives me a 19x minus 5 equals 90. So 19x equals 95. So that means x equals 5. So now that x equals 5, what we can do is we can go ahead and plug that in. When we plug it in, we're going to plug it into both of them just to make sure our answer is correct. 12 times 5 is 60, and 60 minus 3 is 57. So that's angle R. That's actually the answer we're looking for. 7 times 5 is 35, and 35 minus 2 is 33. And 33 and 57 together equal 90, so that's correct. So the measurement of angle R is 57 degrees. 16, 1 and 2, angle 1 and 2 form a linear pair. Well, linear pair are angles that are on a line, so they are going to be supplementary. the measure of angle 2 is 6 more than twice the measure of angle 1. So here's the key to these kind of problems. See how angle 2 is being compared to angle 1? Do we even know what angle 1 is? No. So that's kind of our reference point. And when we don't know what something is and something else is being compared to it, we just call it x. So we're going to say, let angle 1 equal x. And we are going to let angle 2, which we know is 6 more than twice the measure of x. Well, if of angle 1. If angle 1 is x, twice the measure of x would be 2x. And it is 6 more, so that just means plus 6. And we know that together these form a linear pair, which is 180, so we add them together. X plus 2x plus 6 equals 180. That is 3x plus 6 equals 180. So 3x equals 174. And 174 divided by 3 gets me 58. So x is looking like it's 58. We'll check it out. Well, if this is 58, angle 1, angle 2 would be 2 times 58, which is 116, plus 6 is 122. And notice together these equal 180. So the measure of angle 2 is 122 degrees. All right, for 18, if ray UW bisects angle TUV, which means cut in half, so that means UW cuts TUV in half, making these equal to each other. TUV is 13x minus 5. So that whole angle, TUV is 13x minus 5, up to W is 13x minus 5. And WUV is 7x plus 31. Find the value of x. Well, if ray UW, if that bisects TUV, that means that TUW and VUW are congruent or equal. So that's going to mean that 13x minus 5 equals 7x plus 31. When we go ahead and do our usual steps, 6x equals 36, so x equals 6. If you want to check it out, 13 times 6 is 78 minus 5 would be 73. And 7 times 6 is 42, and 42 plus 31 is also 73 degrees, so those check out. So x is equal to 6. Next, we got number 20. If ray EF bisects CEB, so EF bisects CEB, making that 2 equal angles. The measurement of CEF is 7x plus 21. So that is 7x plus 21. And a measurement of FEB is 10x minus 3. Find the measure of DEB. So we actually have to find the measurement of DEB. All right, I think we can do this. What we're looking for is this one. Well, we know that since CEF and BEF were formed by an angle bisector, they're equal. So that means 7x plus 21 equals 10x minus 3. All right, so those cancel out and those cancel out. That gives me 24 equals 3x, so 8, or x equals 8. So now we can plug that in. We can plug it in. 7 times 8 is 56. 56 plus 21, well, that's going to be 77. Right, 10 times 8 is 80, and 80 minus 3 is also 77. Now notice, when we look at this right here is a straight line, right? So everything on a straight line, which means all 3 of these angles here, they have to equal 180. And what do we know so far? Well, we know out of that 180, we have a 77 and a 77. So that gives us 154. So all we do now is we know that this angle here is going to be 180 minus 154. All right, so that's 26 degrees. So that means the measure of angle DEB equals 26 degrees. All right, so that's going to wrap up 1.5. If you have any questions, remember, you can let me know. See me in class. Hit me up through Canvas. Other than that, have a good one. Take care.